Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
YouTube, what's going on? Week 11 is nearly in the books. Week 12 will be upon us very soon, so that means we're getting ready for fantasy playoffs. What does that mean? Well, you probably dealt with some more injuries this week like the rest of us, and you need to know what to do about it. We're here to help. Hopefully. Can't make any promises this week. We're gonna do our best to try to give you something to work with, but it's getting slim pickings, unfortunately, with all these injuries. But before we get into those, if you guys enjoy everything you're getting from us, if you love seeing Mr. Sullivan and I every week give you waiver wire ads, if you like the team doing our weekly live streams, like, subscribe, hit the notification icon, do all those things. We have RotoHeat.com, which is the hub of all things, but we also have podcasts. Mr. Sullivan's got Sully's 2 cents, where he drops some knowledge on you on a weekly basis, and that's for your eardrums. You also have this visual gloriousness between Mr. Sullivan and I every Sunday night. We got live streams on Tuesday and Wednesday, and once we get to the off season, we'll get back to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so you'll have lots to keep you entertained throughout the off season. I think that's it. Mr. Sullivan, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you very much. I got nothing to add. That was a great intro, brother.
I was on my A game. I brought my Carson Wentz. Nah, he didn't bring his A game. My Baker.
No.
Baker didn't do it either.
No.
I brought my PJ Walker.
Sure.
He brought his A game today, baby.
Got the W.
So, without further ado, we got some quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and Mr. Sullivan, I'll give it to you, and you can tell us all that we need to know.
All right. So, like Brad alluded to at the top, this isn't the greatest of list of people, unfortunately, this week, but it's, like you said, slim pickings. So, at the quarterback position, we have three that will bring you tonight. One is Tua Tagovailoa. The other is Kirk Cousins. And the third is Alex Smith. So, Brad, I'll let you tell me what you think of these three quarterbacks.
Well, after Tua's benching because of his performance against Denver, that makes me nervous. Obviously, you know, Flores keeps saying that he's the man, but if I had to rate these guys, it's probably Cousins because they're pushing for a playoff spot.
Not anymore.
Probably Cousins, Alex Smith, Tua would be my guess if I had to rate them, because Kirk's still going to move the ball through the air some. They're going to have their ups and downs, but they're not a good enough team on defense that they're not going to have to be throwing the ball to keep themselves in a game. So I would think he would probably be the most productive if you needed a quarterback. Alex Smith's a close second because he seems to be getting back on track, but he's also playing, Detroit and Cincinnati. It's not like he's had the elite defenses here recently. So these guys, I would solely look at matchups here coming up. Because that's really gonna dictate who is the guy that I'm going after if I need quarterback help.
Totally. So I kind of picked these guys partially due to matchups. So Tua did get benched today, and that's usually not a good thing for fantasy. They need to be on the field to get points. I do believe he starts again next week. In the next 2 weeks, he gets the Bengals and the Jets. So I think that there's some opportunity for him to bounce back there. Cousins in the next 2 weeks has the Panthers and the Jaguars, so I believe there's opportunity there. And Alex Smith, I think GameScript got Alex Smith this week. They were leading, and that's not going to happen very often. So, I expect more like the Detroit game with Alex Smith, where he's throwing it a ton and almost throwing for 400 yards on a weekly basis. So if I'm ranking them, I think I would join you in the Cousins-Smith-Tua conversation. It's interesting, week 12, there's no buys. So we got everybody available to us again. That's the positive. The negatives, Joe Burrow went down this week for the season and probably longer. Another guy that we didn't list but we could talk about is Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill has tight end eligibility over on ESPN, so the dude's 87% owned there. On Yahoo, he's 42% owned. So if you play in a Yahoo league, Taysom Hill's a viable option for you. He looked pretty darn good today. He's running the ball. He scored 2 on the ground. He's zoned in on Michael Thomas. So I think that there's opportunity there as well. So, we typically target guys that are in that 60% owned and lower range. but you never know what's available in your league. So take a look and see what's out there. But that's the skinny
Yeah.
on the quarterback this week.
Yeah, Hill's probably, I mean, if he's available, he's probably the most attractive of these guys at the moment. His running ability is what's going to really put him over the top. Alex Smith, I didn't look at his matchups. Cowboys are next on the docket, which should be a fairly plus matchup. But after that, he's got the Steelers, so that'll be a tougher one. But there's still the ability to move the ball through the air, but it's going to be tough. So next week, I still agree with Cousins, Smith, Tua, but after that against the Steelers, I don't know that I'd be starting him if there's an other option out there. Cousins has a better matchup. Tua has a better matchup. So just be careful. At this point, if you're hurting at quarterback, you have to take it week to week and just play the matchups.
Totally. And those guys are realistically super flex quarterbacks more so than 1 QB leagues. But here's hoping you guys don't need those quarterbacks. Moving on to the running back position, we have Latavius Murray of the New Orleans Saints, J.K. Dobbins of the Baltimore Ravens, and James White. Dusting off James White of the New England Patriots. What do you think of that trio?
I'm probably going with the rookie, but the tough thing is over the last 4 weeks, when it comes to rushing attempts, 15, 12, 5, 15. And he's sprinkling in just a little bit in the receiving game. He's going to be a tough one to trust on a week in and week out basis. I'm definitely not playing him this week against the Steelers just because it's so hard to trust. I mean, he should get a fair amount of action. Now, obviously, the last contest against the Steelers, he put up 15 carries, 113 yards. So there's potential there, but it's so hard to see and predict how they're going to deploy these running backs. So I love, of all these players, he's the best one of them. But after that, Cowboys are a good matchup for him. I think that would be really good. The Steelers could potentially be a good matchup, but they're coming off a loss to the Titans. That was a tough one to swallow, and I don't know. I mean, I don't hate starting him just because he's the best player of the guys you mentioned. I don't trust the other two at this point. I need to see them use James White more, as much as I think he is their best pass-catching running back. They just haven't been doing anything with him. So that's a tough one. And then Latavius Murray, I mean, with Taysom Hill, you got to think this is going to be kind of the way they run this offense. So he should be flexible. I mean, I don't know how much I love it, but he's at least a guy that you can play in a pinch if you don't have the access to these guys. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't disagree. What I liked about Dobbins today is 41 snaps for him. Edwards had 13. Ingram had 6. So I'm hoping that they're finally moving on and turning the page and giving this kid the run. I agree. Tough matchup next week. He did play well last game out against them without Ingram dressed. So who knows? Maybe he gets that shot again. I watched almost the entire Saints game because I was super curious as to how that offense was going to run. And I was really surprised at the fact that Murray out-touched Kamara today. And Murray had catches today and Kamara didn't. So I don't know if that's the norm or that's just the way this game played out. But the Saints get the Broncos and then they get the Falcons again. So maybe. I agree he's probably flex-worthy. And James White's here for one reason and that one reason only. And it's unfortunately Rex Burkhead went down today. It looks like he tore his ACL, so he's gone. That makes White the pass-catching guy. Sony Michel's not going to do it. Damian Harris is not going to do it. White all of a sudden was 6 for 9 in this one for 64 yards. It's not a lot, but when you look at his previous weeks,
Playable.
That's a month worth of James White lately. So I think, in a PPR league, he's in the flex category as well. So I would agree. I would go Dobbins 1, and I'd probably go White slightly ahead of Murray just because of the pass game and the fact that you're probably going to get more points and be more productivity, through the air than you are on the ground. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to process it. Thinking about who the Patriots have next up on the docket. I think, when you look at the Cardinals and the Chargers, I think those are definitely games where White could get some heavy action in the passing game. So I definitely think you're probably right there. White's definitely a guy that especially in PPR situations, that 6 for 64 is probably a fair. This is probably what you're going to get on a weekly basis. If that's kind of what they're going to do with them. At least for the next at least for the next 2 games. Week 14, they get the Rams. That I wouldn't trust anybody against the Rams. That's going to be a tough sledding for them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, again, it's take a look at your leagues. Things happen in different leagues. Jonathan Taylor had a bit of a resurgence today. There's a lot of people that were upset and down on him last week, so perhaps he got dropped. So take a look and see if you can add him, because I would throw him in there with Dobbins above those other 2 guys as well.
And I would not go get the other Indy running backs. Don't waste the spot and get yourself, less points because you think you're not going to be able to predict when Naheem Hines goes off. I mean, you can't trust it. Go with something that you're sure of.
Yeah, a rough week to chase those points this week, unfortunately, for those who started him.
I was glad in my dynasty I traded him. I mean, I posted that trade offer that
there you go.
As soon as I was like,
love
smashing.
It. All right, wide receivers. We have Tennessee Titans, Corey Davis. San Francisco 49ers, forgotten but coming back, Deebo Samuel. And Indianapolis Colts, rookie sensation, Michael Pittman Jr. Your thoughts, sir?
Why have you not picked up Pittman yet? If anybody hasn't picked up Pittman in their leagues, that's your fault, and you better get on it. I love all these options. Anybody who's been with RotoHeat for a while has known that Rick and I were both Corey Davis slaps for a while there, and he's finally getting the Devontae Parker 17th year breakout. So that's a plus. I mean, it appears that he has found a role in this offense. They've got enough ammunition and enough firepower to move the ball and be able to give A.J. Brown and Davis and Jonnu touches, and targets. So I like it. I like them all. For me, I'd have to go matchups at this point and see, because I think they all, the 49ers are desperate. They need people. Ayuk has done well, but adding Deebo in would be good. I would probably go Pittman, Davis, Deebo, and that's just because we see Pittman's clearly defined role is starting to grow. Getting touchdown upside is a nice thing. And then Corey Davis is more, he's going to get you probably 3 to 5 catches and, 50 to 100 yards. And it's like, okay. And then Deebo is just coming back from injury. I would put Deebo up higher if he wasn't coming back from injury after already being hurt earlier in the offseason. What about you?
Okay. I have Pittman at the top with a bullet as well. Incredibly impressed with him, especially the last 2 outings. He looked fantastic again today. He's making Old Man Rivers look like a viable option as well. I was all over the Corey Davis train. I was on that bandwagon, and then I pulled the cord and got off this year, and now I look like an idiot. So is what it is. Davis looked good today, and he had almost 7 catches over 100 yards, and he's definitely got a role in that offense. And Deebo is there because, like you said, he's coming back. They're desperate. They need some diversity in their offense at the wide receiver position. Ayuk's been very serviceable, but that's it. And what I liked about Deebo last year is he sort of took off when Kittle went down last year. So, reading the tea leaves or wearing a tinfoil hat, dot I's and cross T's, that perhaps this is a good opportunity for Samuel to get in there. But I would definitely go Pittman, Davis, Samuel here as well. I'm picking up Samuel because he's, 53% on ESPN, 51% on Yahoo. I think I don't think I'm going to get him if I wait an extra week. So maybe I play him in week 12. Maybe I don't. Again, no one's on bye, so I should have options as long as my players are healthy. But I want to own him because I think that his stock is going to rise towards the end of the year.
Well, yeah, and if you don't get him now while he's still available, Davis and Pittman could still be available after next week, just because Davis has kind of soured everybody and Pittman's still a rookie and people don't want to trust forever. I mean, I can build this scenario that both of those guys are still available. Deebo, if he comes back and looks even remotely healthy, he's not. I mean, you're just going to have a hard time getting him. So that's absolutely right.
Yeah, Pittman's 25% owned on ESPN and 43% on Yahoo, which is crazy. And Davis is 47 and 51, which is crazy as well. So go get all those guys.
Yep, absolutely.
Right now.
Absolutely.
Right now. Well, not right now. Finish watching this, then go do that. All right, tight ends. We're going to keep talking about Dallas Goedert until he is widely owned. He is still only 58% owned in ESPN
Have
leagues.
you people been watching?
Now, the Yahoo folks are listening. They're up to 71%.
Thank you.
We have Mike Gesicki, who's 54% owned on ESPN and 61% on Yahoo. And Tyler Higbee, who doesn't play until tomorrow, is 49% on ESPN and 55% on Yahoo. The tight end position is terrible. These guys should be owned way more than they are. I'll let Brad tell you why.
If you haven't watched any of the last few weeks, we've been saying Goddard for what, 3 weeks now? And
no, I think
probably
we started
even longer.
In week 5.
Yeah, probably even longer. This week, obviously, the tight ends were heavily involved in that passing offense. He had 5 for 77 and a touchdown. The week before, he's been targeted 6 times each week. So the production, the volume can be there. He's healthy. He looks good. He looks back into form. So I don't know what else to tell you. Why, I can't prove the case to go get him. He's a top 10 tight end when healthy, and that is all the reason you should go pick him up. Higbee is always kind of one of those guys that I liked Gerald Everett, so it's hard for me to really get excited about Higbee. But the volume's there, the potential's there. I mean, they use both tight ends. So if you need tight end and the other guys we haven't mentioned, or the other guys we've mentioned aren't available, swoop them up. It's not going to hurt you because they'll still get action. Gesicki's a tough one. Of these 3, Gesicki's probably, was my favorite coming out in that draft class, or one of the top ones coming out in that draft class. And it's all over the place. Sometimes they give him 10, 11 targets. Sometimes they give him 2. It's like Miami, he's your best receiving option. He's better than your wide receivers. I don't know why you aren't targeting him. He's reliable. He doesn't get hurt. I mean, he's been healthy all year. They just haven't played him. Or they haven't targeted him, I should say, as much. So, but if I had to rank them, so obviously Goddard's 1, Gesicki, then Higbee. And hopefully you can grab them because they're, quite honestly, all 3 of them will get you production, and they're playable on a weekly basis. Higbee would be the only one where I'm like, okay, well, sometimes he's hit or miss. Obviously, health has been an issue. He's been out some too, but he can explode or he could have a dud, and that's a tough thing with Higbee. It's boom or bust.
For sure. When it comes to golf,
Oh, Mr. Sullivan's connections, poor. And truth be told, Mr. Sullivan's from the Great White North. So that connection may just be, I have no idea why it's poor. Obviously, you're seeing me. Everything's working for me. Mr. Sullivan's leaving me hanging, but that's okay. He has some very monumentally amazing things to say right now, and I'm sure he's saying them and then going,